1935. Another brilliant year at the Academy Award for Best Animated Short Subject. I wonder who will win this year. In first place, we have Three Orphan Kittens by who else? Disney as what else? A Silly Symphony, directed by David Hann. Our titular Three Orphan Kittens, Fluffy, Puffy, and Tuffy, go on fantastic adventures while trying to avoid the lady of the house, Delilah. There's not really much to say about the Silly Symphony, other than that it spawned a sequel, More Kittens, and the lady of the house would become a recurring character in future Disney projects throughout the 30s and 40s. In addition, there's a very similar character in the Tom and Jerry series named Dinah that also was a fat black housemate that was also voiced by Lillian Randolph. Both characters are often incorrectly referred to as Mammy Two Shoes, although Disney's is a little more official thanks to what we know from the model sheets. In second place in all this mess is another Silly Symphony, Who Killed Cock Robin? If Three Orphan Kittens was meant to be stereotypically cutesy, then Who Killed Cock Robin showed Disney was much, much, much more than that and why imitating him was a bad thing. It's based on the poem of the same name, and it's exactly on the tin. It's ahem. It's exactly what it says on the tin. Cock Robin has allegedly been killed, and they're trying to find who killed him. What should be a Disney-fied plot turns shockingly dark when the lawmen cheerily suggest, through song no less, that they should hang everybody. And you thought Disney was supposed to be cute, didn't you? Well, this is still Disney, so in the end, Cock Robin turns out to be alright. But still, this is proof that all those Disney imitators that were in full swing during this period were only superficially copying him, his cutesy animation and looks, rather than his actual deep plots. There is one exception to this rule, though, but that'll be for the next Academy Awards. In the meantime, let's look at one of those Disney imitations. Happy Harmony's The Calico Dragon, the first MGM cartoon on the list. MGM had started up its animation business in 1930 with the help of iWorks. iWorks is best known for animating all those Mickey Mouse cartoons from the early years of Disney. But in late 1929, he had a spat with Walt Disney and left for MGM. His Flip the Frog cartoons and Willy Whopper cartoons, though not particularly successful, displayed shockingly risque humor that was almost unheard of at the time. Unfortunately, cartoons like these would not appear again after 1934 because of the Hays Code. The Hays Code stated that there was to be no explicit sex, violence, gore, and also nothing actually mature. So this is why all the cartoons released from that period until at least 1968 are so kiddie in other... Okay, well, not necessarily kiddie per se, but that's why they pretty much lacked really adult things like gore and violence and sex, like you usually see today in the cartoons. Because some moral guardian with the name of Hayes decided that there's to be a code against this type of stuff. Now granted, many cartoons from the golden age of animation are fantastic. It was the golden age of animation after all. But the creators had to work around censorship. which I think actually worked for the better since it led to those clashes in the first place, although I'm not for censorship. I'm not. Well, although they were pioneers in more edgier anti-Disney humor, Ub Iwerks Studios' output was not a success for MGM. And when they dropped them as distributors in 1934, Iwerks and his boss Pat Powers had to distribute their next series, Comic Colors, on their own. Because it was not a major studio distributing them, they failed to actually gain an impact. And so, Iwerks pretty much spent the last few years of his independent studio life doing subcontractor work for Warner Brothers and especially Columbia, before returning to Disney in 1940 as a technical supervisor, making him in charge of the studio's animation tech experiments in animation and other techniques that could further it, a position he would hold for the rest of his life. Aside from other producer stuff and the like. Now, MGM could have been out of the game after that, but all was not lost, because around the same time they fired Iwerks, another pair of Disney XPs had and that's me screwing up my sentence again. So let me start from this could have been the end for MGM. This could have been the end for MGM, yada yada yada, but whereas one Disney man left the studio in 1934, two more would come to it that same year. Harmon and Ising had cut ties with Leon Schlesinger for Warner Brothers, and pretty much took all of their staff to MGM in response, though they also had a brief tenure at Van Buren prior to that. MGM, naturally, wanting a cartoon base, picked them up. Their output was the Disney-esque Happy Harmony series, and these are purely Disney imitations. Though there were some bright spots in them, the Calico Dragon being one of them, it's a fun little adventurous romp through Toyland, where the titular dragon is actually a quite enticing threat. But these cartoons are way too long. I think that's their main issue. It wasn't that they were slow, it's just that they were too long and they didn't have a story to justify that longness. So much of it was padding. And this would actually be an issue for MGM well into the mid-40s. Despite this, the company had a reputation of having quality animation and budgets that were only just below Disney. MGM was formed through a merger with a theater business as well as a casino and entertainment company, so naturally they would have higher budgets than all their other Disney competitors, than all their other Disney competing ilk. Harmon Ising also was a lot wiser than Disney, as they made sure that Bosco, the talking kid, was their product and their product alone. And thus, Bosco became pretty much the only major character of the golden age of animation to officially jump from one studio's output to another. Initially, Bosco looked the same as he did in the Warner Brothers cartoons, but starting from later this year, specifically with Run Sheep Run, Bosco was redesigned so that he looked more like a stereotypical African American kid with an equally curious personality. And the same thing happened with Honey and Bruno, sharing only the name of Bosco and Honey and Bruno. Because of this, his popularity fell out, and he appeared much less frequently throughout the Happy Harmony series. By the way, in case you haven't noticed right now, Happy Harmonies is supposed to not only be a riff on Silly Symphonies like everybody else was riffing on them during this period, but it's also a pun. Happy Harmonies, as in harmonizing. Speaking of that, the official name of that was their official pairing name, harmonizing, as in harmonizing to a melody, which melodies they were good at. But despite being pure Disney imitations, these happy harmonies were ultimately successful, and in fact, they were the first studio to produce three-strip Technicolor cartoons outside of Disney, which happened later that year, beginning with the Old Plantation. So that was quite the whiz, and yeah, not much happened this year pertaining to the Academy Awards. This is the Man from Wackyland notifying you that was 1935.